Hello, this is David Roberson with Silicon Valley Property Management Group. I wanted to talk today a little bit about a blog article I recently wrote. California has imposed a new requirement for property owners who own properties, buildings that have balconies and raised decks. Back in 2015, many of you probably watched the news of a story of a fifth-story exterior balcony collapsed at a popular apartment building named Library Gardens near the University of California, Berkeley. At the time of the incident, a group of Irish exchange students were gathering on the balcony celebrating a 21st birthday. Unfortunately, 6 of the kids perished and 7 other ones were severely injured. And what was really tragic is most of the kids were all from one family. They were all a bunch of cousins. After an extensive investigation by obviously the CSLB and then plaintiffs' attorneys, it was determined that the cause of the collapse was defective construction and defective building materials. So several concurrent events that converged and caused this absolute tragedy. The construction method that the contractor used and the subcontractors used allowed moisture to enter the balcony joist inside the building cavity, causing dry rot and eventually a failed structural member and members. The joists that were actually holding the balconies up were actually oriented strand boards, which is a composite engineered material that isn't designed to be wet. It's designed to be dry and maintain its structural integrity. If it gets wet, it could suffer failure, like it did in this case. Also, there's always a question as to why would you use an OSB board that's going to be supporting an exterior component such as a balcony when you can use pressure-treated wood, and the cost really isn't that much difference. Anyway, the California Contractor State Licensing Board revoked the license of the company that installed the balcony. And what's tragic is that there was evidence and several reports of dry rot that had been observed on the balcony before this incident. And during the several lawsuits that arose from this tragedy, there was allegations that the building contractor of this company called Segu Construction, who's obviously not in business anymore, used inferior composite wood in lieu of the more robust pressure-treated structural members to construct the balcony. It was also alleged that one of the subcontractors had allowed moisture to accumulate on the OSB boards before they installed them and didn't really give them adequate time to dry before installing them and encapsulating them, thus potentially allowing these OSB joists to remain wet because they were getting absolutely no ventilation in their encapsulated construction cocoon, basically, inside the building floor system. So the moisture was allowed to accumulate and it saturated. Those failed structural components, just became weak. It was also a tragedy that there was observations that mushrooms had began to grow on the outside of the failed balcony as well as the 4th-story balcony below. And this information was communicated to both the property manager, the manager at the apartment buildings, and also the building owner. And even though it was brought to their attention, nothing was ever done, which is obviously negligence on the part of those individuals, which came out during several of these lawsuits. The CSLB prepared a 145-page report, which I have attached to my blog article, and you can read it. In response to this tragedy and all the evidence that was collected, the California legislature passed SB 721 to impose additional inspection requirements on owners of buildings containing exterior elevated elements such as raised decks or balconies. Now, there's there's probably tens of thousands of buildings in California which have raised decks or balconies that would meet this definition, and now there's this new law that's going to be imposed on these building owners, which would make a lot of sense, right? You want to make sure that the structural components, when people go out and walk on them, that they're 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet above grade would be safe. And now this new inspection requirement is law, and all these building owners are going to have to comply with it. In addition to the structural components, the waterproofing elements have to be inspected as well. So these requirements now law of the state of California. And they can be inspected by licensed architects, licensed civil and structural engineers, a building contractor holding a specified license, General B contractor, an individual certified as a building inspector or a building official. Once the inspection is done, the licensed professional has to prepare a report and give it to the owner within 45 days of the completion of the inspection. And the owner has to maintain a couple of copies of this report for 2 inspection cycles, so for 12 years, for example. And obviously, this is the minimum requirement. So the fact that this hasn't been a law or hasn't been a requirement says a lot. In that, I bet you there's plenty of building owners and plenty of property managers that are out there doing this kind of stuff, in addition to reserve studies that inspect, exterior components. But it hasn't been the law in the state of California until now. So it's really important that building owners and property managers understand that and start implementing these inspections during their inspection cycles. Another really kind of key for especially residential purchasers, condominium conversions. The owner selling a condominium conversion must obtain an inspection before the close of escrow. Obviously it'd be really important for the owner of a condo that's got a raised deck or a balcony to have confidence that their structural components that are holding up their balconies are in good condition. What happens if the inspection reveals conditions that are potentially hazardous? Then the owner has some timelines to obviously remediate those. In addition to, at minimum, if there's an inspection that reveals a safety or hazardous condition, they should be cordoned off. Balconies and the raised deck should be cordoned off, and the repairs should be immediately begun. Once the owner becomes aware of the hazardous or the safety condition, they have 15 days to begin repairs. So in most building departments, and actually the building code provides for emergency repairs and permits on an expedited basis. So that'd be really simple to do. And now in lieu of this law, it's going to be more important than ever. Importantly, notice must be given to the local enforcement agency or the authority having jurisdiction, which means a local building department, or for the county building department. If repairs are not completed on time, then that authority having jurisdiction may send a 30-day corrective notice to the owner of the building and assess civil penalties and liens against the property. Those penalties are defined in the code, and I've actually attached a section of the code and the new law to the blog article as well if you're interested. So if you're a building owner and you have a raised deck or a balcony, you are now required to follow this new inspection law. If you don't have a property manager in place, then you should reach out to one or hire a licensed architect or civil engineer to come and look at those components on your building and pay attention to the waterproofing and the wear and tear that's happened on those balconies and those raised decks over time. And you can also forward this article to your property manager if you have a property management company, just so they are aware of these new requirements. Most top property management companies are aware of this, and they'll be implementing this into their normal inspection duties on an annual basis, and every 6 years they've got to produce a report. If you manage the building yourself and you'd like additional information about this new requirement, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, David Roberson, Silicon Valley Property Management Group. My phone number is 408-838-5113. You can send me an email as well, david@svpmg.net. Please go to my blog, read some of my other blog articles, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.